Hi, happy Friday. I had to think for a second. It's been such a weird week with the holiday. I was thinking, wait, is it really Friday? It is. So I'll wait just a minute and let folks jump on here. Today, we are going to talk about whether or not you should ever pay to speak at an event, a conference, a summit, that sort of thing. Kind of an interesting topic, and I'm sure people have some opinions on it, but I had this come up recently, actually this week, and really kind of struggled with my own decision about it and decided that I just wanted to let you guys know what my thought process was and what I ultimately decided. And I just thought it'd be one of those good topics to put out there, because if you haven't already run into this, you probably will at some point, particularly if you want to be a speaker and if you're hanging out in the same sort of circles that I am, where there's a lot of conferences and summits and events that you get invited to where you might potentially be asked to pay to be part of the event. So just thought it was a good topic that maybe a lot of you could identify with. And quite honestly, I just need to talk it out. It's something I've really struggled with all week long, and I've been able to have the conversation with my husband, who I'm not sure totally understands. And when I get done with you guys, I'm gonna have one more call about it with my lovely accountability partner, Leanne, whose opinion I always value. But it's just one of those things that has really occupied a lot of my thoughts the last few days. And as a matter of fact, I didn't sleep very well last night because of sort of internal struggle I've had with this decision this week. So I'll go ahead and get started with those of you who are on. If you're here, say hi. I would love to say hi and know who's here. And I'm having like a funny hair day. Like I can see in my reflection here, like a piece of hair sticking up, and like my bump didn't really do what I wanted to do today. And like this side of my hair like had a little volume, and this side, as you can see, has none. And those are the kind of things that I know keep some of you guys from doing live video, is your hair, your makeup. I know that's probably more for the women than for the men, but you just got to do it. You just got to not worry about it and just do it. So I'm going to try to stop looking at my hair here and get on with it. If you're here, say hi. I'd love to say hi back. Okay, so I recently was approached by someone that I really know, like, and trust on Facebook, someone I haven't met in person, but who I've had multiple conversations with, and who I might work with going forward on a project. And she mentioned to me that there was potentially a really good speaking opportunity for me at a summit that is being held not too awfully far from where I live. So it was reasonable for me to drive to it, so I didn't have to expend the money to fly, which makes a difference for me, particularly if my travel's not getting picked up by somebody. And I rarely speak when my travel's not getting picked up, to be quite honest. I've spoken long enough now that I rarely speak for free, period. I mean, there are instances where I do, and I think I've talked to you guys about one of the best speaking engagements I've done since I started my business was in Jacksonville, Florida, close to where I live. That's a little under an hour, right at an hour from where I live on Amelia Island. And I did that speaking engagement for free, but it put me in front of a room full of entrepreneurs who were all essentially my ideal client. And so it made sense for me to do that speaking engagement for free. And it did lead to 8 different meetings out of like the 25 people who were there. And so to me, that was totally worth it. Plus it was local. It was no big deal. It was just giving up an evening of my time, and I'm willing to do that. I've been approached one time previously about speaking somewhere that would involve me paying to be a speaker. Not that they would pay me, but that I would pay them to be part of the event. And quite honestly, it wasn't something I was really all that familiar with, because I've spoken primarily in the corporate world and then also within higher education, and I have either been paid to speak or it's been free because I've had some other opportunity, like selling my book in the back of the room or something like that. So that's for a different discussion, but there are times I think speaking for free makes sense, okay? And that's something that if you want me to talk about, I can do another live on that. But I had never really considered till probably about 6 months ago, when I got approached for this the first time, that I would ever pay someone to speak at their event. And when this other person asked me to, there were a lot of sort of red flags about that event and that person. And it was really soon, and I was gonna have to fly across the country. And I just said no. I really didn't even give it that much thought. I said no. The event ended up being a bit of a disaster. The person ended up being totally shady, and I was so glad that I wasn't involved with it. That is not to say that everyone who charges speakers is shady. It does bring up red flags for me, and it makes me feel icky deep in my gut, but I do not think that that necessarily means that they're shady or they're a bad person or they're doing anything wrong. Okay, so this person that I know, like, and trust hooked me up with someone planning an event for another coach. I was hooked up with the event planner, not with the coach who's actually hosting the event. And when I had the first phone call with the event planner did mention to me that their speakers were being asked to pay $800 to speak at this summit. It is a summit run by a coach, and it's run for other coaches, most of whom are just starting out in their businesses, it sounds like, and helping them get their businesses off the ground. And a lot of these people would be ideal for me, not as publicity clients, but for my upcoming course that I'm getting ready to roll out. And you guys, I am so close. I'm actually going to spend this weekend finishing off the public speaking module, which I hope to take live at a great discount for sort of beta testing next week. I know that's super ambitious. It's probably going to be 2 weeks, but I'm going to say to myself that it's going to be next week. Okay, so the people at this summit would be ideal potentially for that, where you learn how to be your own publicist, because they're not my ideal clients for my publicity work, which is the main source of my revenue right now, because people in my publicity business have generally been in business at least a year. They're making 6 figures already. I mean, that's not a hard and fast rule, but that's where a lot of them are. I don't really have anybody with me who just started their business. I mean, most people have been doing something, maybe they've changed their business a little bit, but they've already been entrepreneurs for a little while. So the people in this audience would be ideal for my course. Okay, fine. And the event planner told me that they were charging speakers $800, but that she thought that they would waive it for me if I was willing to really push it hard on my social media. And I even offered to go above and beyond that and do some publicity for the event, although the event's only a few weeks away. And so in terms of getting people to attend the event, I think that that opportunity is sort of gone. They did say that if I had people sign up for the event, or I'm sorry, not me, but other speakers who were paying, if they had people sign up for the event, they were essentially getting, I guess, like affiliate commission that, reduced that $800 they were paying to speak. But the event planner said, she thought she could get the coach that's running the event to agree that I would, help publicize the event. And I know that they have another event that'll be coming up at the beginning of 2017. I said I would try to get them some local media for this event, and then that I'd be happy to help with some publicity for the next event too, because I understand they were asking other speakers to pay to speak, and they were trying to work me in last minute to be part of this event. Okay, so fine. At that point, I was totally planning on going. I had already thought through what day I was going to leave and drive. I had already talked to a photographer who I wanted to do a photo shoot with in the same city as this event. And so I had things kind of lined up. I mean, I was going. And as a matter of fact, yesterday morning, I almost posted on Facebook that I was going to this event, because I wanted to let the other people who were going know that I was going to be there, because now I've learned that there's 5 or 6 people that I interact with a lot on Facebook who are all going to this event. I think for the most part, they're all speakers, and they're people I really want to meet in person. I believe very strongly in personal connections. And if you have an opportunity to meet somebody in person, even though the majority of my business is online, I take that opportunity to meet people whenever I can. As a matter of fact, one of my clients, Kara, who's an author you may have seen me posting about, she and I just so happen will both be in New Orleans next week for speaking engagements at separate conferences. But we're going to try to get together, because I think if you have that opportunity to meet a client, absolutely you want to get to know them in person and forge that personal bond. And a couple of months ago, I drove down to Tampa, which is about a 4-hour drive for me from where I live in Florida. And I went to a brunch with 6 or 7 other female entrepreneurs, because I thought that they were people I wanted to meet in person. And as a matter of fact, I ended up with a client who I met that day, Jessica. Dream client, somebody I'm totally excited to work with. And so I have no problem spending money to travel if I think that it's going to help me meet people and forge those personal relationships. Okay, so I was fine with covering my travel to go to this event that I was asked to speak at. I was going to cover, driving down there. I was going to cover the hotel stay. I was fine with all of that. But yesterday, the event planner called me back and said that the coach running the summit did not agree to waive my speaking fee, that she doesn't think that my audience is necessarily her audience, and so she's not sure she could get any value out of me publicizing the event through my social media channels. Now, I had also agreed to try to get some local media for her, but she wanted me to pay the $800. Now, the concession she was willing to make was that she would make me a sponsor of something that they are giving out at the event that my logo would be on. So the way it was presented was I wasn't necessarily paying to speak. I was paying to sponsor this item that would have my logo on it, and in return for that, I would be given 20 minutes to speak. And my understanding is there's quite a few speakers who are only getting 15 to 20 minutes, and then there are some speakers who are getting 45 minutes. But this is a summit that's 2 full days, and as you can imagine, if each speaker is getting 15 to 20 minutes or even 45 minutes, that's a lot of speakers in a couple of days, which is great. I mean, that could mean a lot of value for your audience. But there's something that just really bothers me about paying to speak. I mean, even though they said that I could have my logo on this promotional item, I mean, in my mind, I'm still paying to speak. And it's not completely unheard of. I know attorneys who have been asked to sponsor at conferences, and then in return, they get a speaking spot. And I've been to a lot of conferences, and let me tell you, the speakers who were up there because they paid to sponsor some part of the event, and in return, they got to get up and speak to the audience, not one of those has ever been a good speaker, okay? They're usually overly promotional, they're boring, they don't have speaking experience, so they're not an engaging speaker. I don't think I've ever seen a speaker from a sponsor who was a good speaker, okay? At conferences and events, usually the value you get is from the experts that they brought in, and quite honestly, I'm usually one of those experts when I'm at a conference. And so I am paid to come and speak to the audience because I provide value to the audience. And I think that when you're putting together a summit or an event, first and foremost, what you should be trying to do, I'm trying really hard not to get all worked up and angry about this. But I think that if you're putting on a summit or an event, that every single one of your speakers should have been chosen because they provide value for your audience, okay? Your audience is paying to be there, and I think that the speakers should provide value. Now, I understand that these events are expensive to put on, and perhaps you can't pay your speakers, and I would have been willing to do this one for free, okay? I did want to meet the people that were going to be there, and this is one I would have been willing to do for free. Not willing to pay for it, but I would have been willing to do it for free. So I get that when you are a coach putting on a summit or an event, you probably can't afford to pay your speakers, although I know some that can, but fine, would have done it for free. But I don't think that you should just be letting anyone get in front of your audience because they were willing to pay the fee. Now, I'm sure that this person at some level did handpick the people they asked to come speak and who they've now asked to pay to speak. I understand wanting those people to promote the event so that you can get your attendance numbers where they want to get or where they need to be. But here's the thing. I have never hosted an event or a summit, a conference, a workshop, whatever, other than when I'm asked to come in and host it. But I have never myself planned one. And that's for a reason, because I can't figure out a model that makes it make financial sense for me and for the attendees. Now, there are models out there that do, but events just aren't my strong suit. And maybe down the road, I'll hire somebody who will help me with that. But I would never ask speakers to pay to speak. Now, the way it was presented to me, not just this time, but the last time, is that you are paying essentially for the honor of getting in front of their audience who, presumably has your ideal client or customer in it. Now, I was told you could not direct sell from the stage, and that's fine because I don't think that that really works anyway. I think you're there to build connections and that people will buy from you because they learn to know, like, and trust you. And so I have no problem that they weren't allowing direct sales from the stage. But if you're telling speakers that they have to pay because they're getting access to your audience, it bothers me on a couple of fronts. What really bothers me about it is that your audience is paying to get value, but on the other hand, you're telling your speakers they've got to pay to get in front of your audience. Like, to me, and I don't know that I'm doing a great job verbalizing my feelings about this. And as you can tell, like I'm a little more worked up and at a loss for words than I normally am in my Facebook lives. But like, this is how much I've struggled with this in the last 24 hours, because there were people I really wanted to meet at this event, but I can't stomach paying to speak. I just can't. I can't do it. It doesn't feel authentic to me. Now, I'm not saying that you should never do it, or that you're, a horrible person, or you're running your business wrong if you do it. And, likewise, if you're someone who's planning the event, I'm not saying that you're shady or that, you're trying to milk people or whatever. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying it doesn't feel authentic to me, that in my gut, it feels gross and icky. And I would feel like that the entire time I was there, and I can't do it. Okay. It's a conference where I think I would be able to meet some fabulous people that I really wanted to meet, but the sessions themselves, I'm not sure, are really geared towards me and or something that I would get anything out of. So there's that piece to it. So I would be just going to meet and network with people, which again, I'm willing to spend money to do that. I told you, I drove to Tampa a couple of months ago to meet some female entrepreneurs, and it wasn't with the goal of necessarily getting any of them as a client. I wanted to meet them because some of them I had already met on Facebook and really liked and wanted to get to know in person. And I was willing to spend the money to drive down there and stay in a hotel for a night and go to this brunch in order to meet these women. Now, the awesome thing that happened is I did get a client out of it. I am more than willing to spend money to network and to meet people. And God, when I first started speaking, I would cover my travel to go speak. People weren't paying me to speak, and I was covering my travel. My first year at ESPN, I wasn't allowed to take speaking fees or travel reimbursements. It's a whole long story. And I spent about $5,000 traveling all over the country speaking that year, because I thought that it was important for establishing my platform and becoming a bigger expert in my area. And I had a book coming out and I really wanted to establish that platform. So I'm willing to invest money when it makes sense and when it feels good to me. When I did it those times, I didn't even think twice. When the Tampa thing came up, I jumped on it the instant I saw it, and I never thought twice about the 4-hour drive or the gas or the hotel room, okay? But I just don't feel that way about paying to speak at a summit. I just don't. And I'm really curious to hear what you guys think, either now live or if you want to discuss this in the comments later, because quite honestly, like, I wanted to bounce this off of someone yesterday and just didn't have anyone at the moment to talk to. And I tried to bounce it off my husband, who was like, of course you're not going to pay to speak. And he's right, like, I'm not going to, but I needed to have like a longer conversation than that. I tried to make him understand why I was torn and why it wasn't such a cut and dry black and white decision for me. I was genuinely torn because I wanted to meet these 5 or 6 women so badly. But quite honestly, like, one of them lives somewhere I was just at recently. I just didn't know she was there, but like, I should have, if I had known, I would have reached out to her while I was there and met her while I was there. I know a few people in that area. I would rather pay to travel back to that city and put together my own little meetup with those women than go to the summit and pay to speak. And maybe that's stupid. Maybe I'm making a huge mistake. Maybe this is totally normal in this world that you pay to speak at a summit. But at the end of the day, you have to do what feels authentic for you. What feels like a good business move to you, what in your gut feels good, and nothing about this feels good to me. And again, that's not to say that these people are doing anything shady or that there's anything out of the ordinary about it. This is already the second time in the last few months that I've been asked to do this. So clearly that is how some people put together their conferences and their summits in this, this area, sort of corner of the online marketing world. And so I'm not saying that there's anything like nefarious going on, but it doesn't feel good to me. And at the end of the day, I think you have to follow your gut. And very rarely has my gut ever betrayed me. And so I'm going to follow my gut, and I am not going to go to this summit. I'm not going to speak. I'm going to miss out on the opportunity to meet these people in person. I even thought about, like, could I go down there and figure out how to meet up with them without actually being part of the summit? But I don't want to like poach on the summit either. So as you can see, like, I'm still thinking about this a lot. I seriously got barely any sleep last night because I just kept thinking about this and having dreams about it. And it's really eating me up because I so badly want to meet these people, but I just can't do it under these circumstances. It doesn't feel right to me. So I know I'm just starting to say the same thing over and over and over, so I'm gonna stop. If you guys have any questions, I will hang around for a couple of minutes to answer questions. And if you aren't watching it live and you end up watching the replay later and you wanna leave questions or comments, you wanna tell me I'm making the wrong decision, or you wanna tell me why you've made the decision to pay or why you haven't, I really am interested in feedback from everybody. I think it would make me feel better just to like be able to have that dialogue with some of you here in the group. And so I'm happy to discuss it now or later. I don't see anybody leaving comments, so I'm gonna head off and go call my accountability partner and rehash this whole thing to her and see what she says, because she has led a bunch of events, and so I'm curious from her perspective if she's ever done this and how she feels about it and if she would ever pay to do it. But definitely let's have an open dialogue about this. I want to hear what you guys think. If you haven't already been asked to do it, you probably will. So start thinking about what your response is going to be and how you feel about it. I hope you guys have a great Friday and a fantastic weekend. And actually, I just saw a comment pop up, so I'll stop. Okay. Crystal says, thanks for being real and transparent. I was presented with an opportunity to speak for a fee. I couldn't do it. It just didn't feel right to me. And that's exactly how I feel. It feels icky to me. It feels icky and gross and wrong. And again, it's not like I think so highly of myself and I'm like, well, I don't go anywhere where people don't pay me to speak. It's not true. I speak for free. When it makes sense for me, I have no problem speaking for free. I have no problem covering my own travel. A lot of times I extend trips that I take and pay to stay extra nights just to go meet people. I think there's incredible, incredible value in that. And I am more than willing to invest in it when it feels right to me, but this doesn't feel right to me. So if nobody else has questions, I will go back to wishing you a wonderful Friday and a great weekend, and I will keep checking back. So if you leave comments later, I will be back and we can continue the discussion down in the comments. Thank you guys.